morning and welcome to our live broadcast of the Tourismus Namibia magazine. Obviously, we bring you this show every week and welcome. I hope you have a good morning so far. My name is Frank Steffen. I'm the editor of Allgemeine Zeitung, but more importantly, obviously the editor of Tourismus Namibia magazine. And as is our habit, we again have our three segments, basically starting off with topics first and foremost. Yeah, I've got basically four topics, but very much related. Obviously, I don't want to spend too much time. I think we all are just too glad that on Thursday, the President of Namibia, Dr. Hage Geingob, has obviously lifted the lockdown. Yeah, it was pretty much a thing that could be foreseen, seeing that the state of emergency came to an end on that day. But by the same token, he obviously didn't attempt to renew it, which I think is great news and lots to be thankful for, because obviously now it's time to get our economy going again. And first and foremost for us in this show would obviously be the tourism sector. So good news on that side. Obviously there will be regulations and there's still lots to do, and COVID is not suddenly gone from one day to the next. But I think we should now learn to manage it rather than just be afraid of it all the time. And in that respect, good news, Eurowings is landing tomorrow morning. So obviously this was the first time they landed. It was a photo which the Allgemeine Zeitung had at that point in time. So hopefully we'll have more of this sort of thing coming as the weeks go on now, a bit of normalization of life again. Yeah, and then the further good news is obviously that President Ramaphosa down in South Africa also lifted his country out of the state of emergency or the special lockdown rules and so on. So as from 1st of October, they plan on opening the border. Now, that was exactly what was one of the discussion points during the press conference on Thursday, where it was said it's one thing to open up our borders, but there's also a need for the others to open theirs. So I think those 14 days won't make the difference now in terms of what has been experienced in terms of damage. The good news is that as from 1st of October, we're opening up, and with the Namibia Tourism Expo coming up in November, that is the 4th of November right through to the 7th of November, we obviously hope that we from our side can stimulate that whole tourism sector and hopefully welcome visitors coming in from the SADC region, specifically South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe. Many of these guys came over to our country last year, so maybe we can save this whole tourism season just a tiny bit for the local guys to just see the new year without further damage. Then on a final note, there's a fort in Ochimbingwe, and this is really disturbing news. This was an article that Republican had earlier in the week. This is what the fort used to look like. And then I have no words for this. They decided to break down. Now, I totally get it. If there's anger for whatever the colonial people did, and if there is frustration because of COVID, I all get that. But what I don't get is that you finally have that one little single item which actually is a tourist attraction, and then you break it down. While everywhere else in the country, we try and revamp these sort of things and make sure that people have something to come and visit if they go to an area. These people have literally destroyed what was probably one of the only few items that made people go there. So it's beyond stupid, sorry, but I don't have a word for this. And it's sad. But yeah, that's what it is, and that really brings us to the end of our topics for this week. Next up, good news again. We've got Chloe Durr coming in, and we'll present a few destination points to you. But before we go there, let's quickly listen to what the marketplace has to say. Hi, welcome back. As you can see, Chloe's joined me, Chloe Durr. She obviously writes for Tourismus Namibia. Hi, Chloe.
I'm home.
Yeah, it is really so, because we just spoke about it. Last week, we actually brought you Namakwa land, and we had such a long show, so we sort of shortened it all a bit. But today, Chloe's back, and she wants to introduce you to 3 different destinations, give you different ideas. So let's cut to the chase. Harap Dam.
Yeah, I
different.
thought not necessarily a destination, but I think it is always interesting to visit some of these sites, and this being the largest dam in Namibia, and especially this year, it got some nice rain. So it was just a quick stop for me, really, and actually I found it very beautiful. I mean, the color of the water. And the bird life was actually incredible as well.
Pelicans and whatever.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the pelican colony, but it is something that I'd like to see. And I mean, there are mixed opinions about whether it's worth going or not. But I would say from my visit, it was very tranquil. It was very, because there were not many people around. Also, the wildlife was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's so close to Marienthal that it's. But one thing
if you look at these photos, by the way, if you can actually do game drives on at Harap. So
oh, really?
Harap actually is a destination, because on those islands, for example, you will have bird life on the islands, but then going over onto the other side, you actually have, if you were on a boat, don't be surprised to actually encounter kudu and stuff coming through the water later on. So ideally, you will have a boat when you go down there, because then you've really got much to do.
I did see people fishing and things like that. So, I mean, the people who are from Marienthal and the locals in the area seem to love it, because it's like, it's like a nice getaway.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to learn actually that it flooded in 1923 and 1934 before it was actually built. And for me, it's very difficult to imagine now. But when it is full, and the catchment area of the Fish River actually, the sluices have to be opened. And so just very interesting for me, because it's hard to imagine that kind of thing in the middle of such an arid region.
My great-grandfather actually had a mining claim in the Harap Valley.
Oh, really?
Long before it obviously was a dam. And what is obviously interesting, it's, by the way, not the biggest one anymore, because since Neckartal came into existence, it's now by far only the second, because Neckartal will eventually dwarf this whole thing. But what is interesting about Harap specifically is its dam wall is actually a sand wall. So it's obviously been finished off with cement, but it's not a concrete wall like you normally have with dams. And being built in that manner, it is the second biggest in Africa, because it's only Aswan Dam which is bigger, also being built with a sand wall.
Is there a reason they did that, the wall?
It's much cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
Much cheaper. It's obviously compacted, I'm saying sand, it's obviously gravel and all types of things, and compacted to the highest possible degree. But yeah, it is quite interesting, yeah.
So and then actually, I mean, you always see the sociable weavers whether it's on a telephone wire or a tree or whatever it is. I mean, you see these kind of haystack-like nests that seem to almost like dominate the trees, and they actually do kill the trees, because that's how heavy they become.
Yeah, they break off later on as well.
But they're sociable weavers, and their name is actually so apt, because you find finches and lovebirds also living within the same colony, and actually the weavers feed birds that aren't even of the same species, because they kind of learn to coexist in a way that they help one another find food. They, alert one another of kind of predators, snakes.
Yeah.
And so it is a very sociable, it is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And often you'll even find owls and vultures that nest on top of the weaver's nest, which they also are happy to have there as extra protection. So it's interesting. I spent some time.
This is a beautiful photo with him looking
I
out
actually
there.
spent like half an hour just sitting underneath them and just watching them, because it's usually in the at the very end of the day when they return back to
But
their
I'm sure
nests.
these photos you actually took when you were down in South Africa, I'm sure.
No. This is actually close to the Fish River Canyon.
Okay, because I was just surprised to see the pole, but then you obviously had a power pole there. Because in South Africa, what you see is, especially if you, in Namibia, our telephone lines have to a largest degree been done away with, simply because we've got the underground cables. But in South Africa, in the Platteland, you still see a load of these telephone
These actually
poles.
on some of the smaller roads in Namibia, you still find them.
Yeah, but it's invariably, it's a power line that's running.
Oh, it's
there,
probably,
yeah.
But it's just, I think there's such a signature
But
of
if
Namibia.
you go, for example, from Noordhoever down to Springbok, and you've got these massive telephone lines along the road, there's virtually not a single pole that doesn't have these social weavers on.
No, it's crazy, but they actually get
This
so
one I
heavy that it pulls the tree down.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly.
Those quiver trees were actually dying as a result, because you can imagine, hundreds of birds are living inside those nests. And so, anyway, I could spend all day just lying under there watching
And
them.
you know what was interesting to see, actually, during the drought? I saw that in Omaruru and those areas. A couple of the Herero farmers that really suffered, or their animals suffered, they actually broke down disused nests and used that as fodder. And
That's clever.
And it like obviously supplied a huge amount of fodder which they would otherwise not have had access
That's actually
to.
a very, very clever idea.
Yeah, and that's why I also thought that was quite smart. Yeah. And then Pitani.
Yeah.
The word you hate.
I know. I've really got to get my pronunciation of things
so
better. But I've got to say, like, this little town I actually stumbled upon by accident when on a trip through the Karas and Hadap region. And it's one of the oldest villages in the country. And it's got, it's got so much history to it that is so interesting. But I hadn't done any research before going there. And it's actually built on a spring, even though it's in like...
You can actually go and visit this.
And this is the oasis that I found. And it was a boiling hot day. And I was mesmerized by the experience because, first of all, I'd just come out of the Namibrand and it was so boiling hot, and I was on my way to Keetmanshoop, and it was just...
You were hoping for cold water.
It was just this incredible oasis, like in the middle of this historical town, that was just so unexpected for me to find. And I love finding like special places like this, because this is what Namibia is about, So many people just, keep on going on the tar roads, but if you see here, like the life that happens within these tiny villages, this only has a population of 2,000 people.
Yeah, I just wanted to know. It's very tiny, small, but it's actually very clean also.
Clean, but also historical. It was founded in 1814, you're going to have to correct me on the name, but Schmelen House?
Schmelen House, yeah.
Schmelen House is right next to the oasis, and it was because it was actually one of the first Renish
missions,
mission stations.
Yeah.
I'm all tongue-tied. And so not only is it like amazing to see like these kinds of village life and kind of happenings of the area, it's also a national monument and old churches and old graves. And so I think, if you're on the way to Luderitz or wherever, stopping at the small towns, I think are what make they cut your journey shorter. They inform you of your surroundings, like get you into the kind of heart and spirit of the region. And I think make any road trip.
And it's quaint, because I remember, for example, what we did at one stage, a friend of mine and I, we actually drove from Keetmans right through the middle of Namaland and going towards Sossus. So instead of taking any of the main roads,
On the C14?
We didn't even go along the C14.
Oh,
We just took the back roads.
Yeah.
And we worked our way towards, ultimately over to Nathalv and Sosos.
That must have
But
been
then,
fun.
and if you drive those roads, I'll tell you one thing, some of those roads you don't drive faster than 40 k's an hour.
Yeah,
And,
I
but which is nice because you come through areas which you think, how the heck don't we know about these? And they're nice areas to see in terms of surroundings. The people are obviously always glad to see somebody because
Yeah.
I think many of those guys never see anybody for a whole year almost.
Yeah.
So, but it's a very interesting area, and if that sort of harsh climate and geology appeals to you, then you can have a ball in there. Like we enjoyed it. We spent a whole, it was 2 days just roaming around there until
I
we
would
finally
love
came
that.
to Nathalv. Yeah.
I mean, I always make a point of stopping at any small town that I pass, just from a historical standpoint. I find it so interesting. But I wish tourists would do the same, because those communities could really do with the extra support, you know, just stopping at a coffee shop or, you know, buying a craft here or there, especially now.
But that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, let's face it,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, again, so much is going on in Namibia which we really don't know about if we don't apply our minds.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can give you a couple of ideas, instead of always taking the main route down
Off
to
the beaten
Keetmans
track.
and then to Lidrith. Go through the middle and find out what's going on there, because it is always interesting.
And also, it's wonderful to be able to develop a journey that's personal to you. And everyone seems to follow the same kind of tourist routes and they have the same kind of story, but make it your own, you know, visit all the small towns,
Exactly.
find your own stories and connect with the culture, because Namibia really, it's just...
And people don't realize it, especially in Namaland. There are many of these little sites that nobody really knows about, because tourism hasn't really been promoted in those areas yet. It's similar to when we talk about the Wambuland, you know. It's so nice to see that bit by bit these things are starting to get off the ground. It's baby steps, but let's see, hopefully. And now, especially with COVID done, hopefully people will be able to say, you know what, I don't want to be where there are many people, so let me go off the beaten track and do my, you know, do my own thing, really, my own experience. Anyway, thank you for watching and thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay. Right, destinations is obviously always a main item for us. We love to introduce new places to you. I think it's important that we do, and as you can see, what Chloe says as well, go and do something different, do your own thing instead of just following the standard roadways and routes that everybody else uses. There's so much to see in Namibia, and my experience has always been, especially if you go to the north as well, you will often see that you know more than 10 kilometers beyond the tar road, and suddenly you've got kudu, you've got all types of game, and it's so nice to see. So just try and be different and visit these different places that we have. Even like I said, Namaland, you won't have kudus there for sure, because it's too dry, it's a harsh area, but you've got a lot of vegetation which is unique to that area, and there's a lot of history to be seen. If you go to Nathalv, you might as well take the back roads and go via Batani, or whatever you do, there's always a nice place to see. Right, and that brings us then to the next item on our show. This is obviously to the point, and I was able to invite Nathalv Ahrens of Tasa to our studio, and yeah, here you can see what happened. Welcome back. As you can see, I'm being joined by Nathalv Ahrens. Nathalv is the chair lady of Tasa. Maybe you want to expand quickly. Welcome, first of all.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, and maybe you want to expand a bit. Tasa, what is Tasa all about? Because I'm sure not all the people know.
Okay. Tasa is a standards association for the tour and safari operators in Namibia. So basically we look after the interests with government as well as with the other tourist associations, and then we obviously also make sure that our members abide by our code of conduct and abide by the standard tourism directives in Namibia.
Okay, so basically it's a voluntary organization.
Yeah, totally voluntary association, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by association you automatically subscribe to the rules and conduct and whatever there is.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
So now you recently had your AGM. Do you want to tell us a bit more? Who are the people who are in there now and what is the next aims?
Yeah, so we had our AGM a while back. We've voted a new committee. So we have 10 members on the committee. I've been voted as chair lady. And then we have Margot Bishop from ATI Holidays, who is the vice chair lady. And then Mari Friede from African Profile Safaris, who is our treasurer. And Tanya van As from Sense of Africa, who is the secretary for Tasa. And then we have Emiliano Benolich, Frans Ndorama, Rosvita Low, Bianca van Liris, Delphine Ilonga, and Isolde Kolmitz, who form the rest of the board.
Okay. So it's quite a comprehensive list of people all around the country, really.
Yes, and it really represents small and big tour operators, new and old ones. So it's a really, really good board. It's a very strong board, and I'm very happy with the team. There's so much enthusiasm and motivation that I really think we can take Tasa to
the next level.
Yes, let's hope so. Well, it's already on a good level, I think, but yeah, we'll definitely
Talking
take
about
it forward.
level, really, we obviously had Prosper, it's Prosper, is it not?
Yes.
He was here on the show a while back, and at that point in time, COVID had just come on to be amongst us, and the pandemic obviously has had some very serious impact on all of us. How does it affect Tasa? How will it affect Tasa going forward? What has changed in the meantime?
We've basically, during the pandemic, we've realized that we need to up our communication with our members. Just the normal email notifications every now and then just didn't cut it anymore. Okay. So we communicate now on WhatsApp with members. There's a lot of tourism WhatsApp groups. I think you're on some of them also, where a lot of information is shared. So the information flow has become much more immediate, which I think is a very positive thing. And we really invite feedback from our members if there are any questions or anything. We have engaged in quite a bit of here and there surveys to get some feedback from members, also through Han and through their membership. And yeah, some have been seeing good responses, others had less response to it. But I think there has been much more communication amongst members and tourism in general, which I really think is very positive. Obviously, the pandemic had a massive impact on tourism and also for the Tour and Safari Association. We decided earlier in the year to waive or refund all the membership fees for 2020 to our members, just to help a little bit for the members, and also all new members that are joining only pay a joining fee, but the membership fee will then only be applicable from the new year.
Okay, so there's a bit of impetus to come and be part of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so that's what we've mostly done at this stage, and then obviously we work with government stakeholders and with NTB and with our fellow associations to clear, there's so much uncertainty at the moment, and always new questions, and we try and get answers to those as quickly as possible.
But does government now allow tour groups as such already to do their own thing also, or is it still just closed groups?
At this stage, there's a lot of uncertainty still. As far as we understand from the regulation, at this stage, the safaris still have to be booked through a tour operator. There's no per se that you can't do a self-drive, but it needs to be booked through a tour operator. And at this stage, all establishments still need to be certified, which is a process that is ongoing at the moment and which is taking longer than anticipated. So that is quite a big worry to the tour operators. But tour groups, yes, by all means, but they need to be booked through a tour operator at this stage.
So what technically happens is if Eurowings lands on Sunday, then these guys are all already dedicated via registered people. But how sure will they be that they're in good hands? When will these guys get their certificates? Any idea?
Look, some of them have received them. Ministry of Health is currently working on it. We have approached Ministry of Health and have asked that they just use the NTB registered establishments just to facilitate and make it easier. The Ministry of Health has also reverted on that and said they don't per se are opposed to that idea. But we need clear indication from Ministry of Health whether that will be a way forward. At this stage, we haven't received anything official on that. That would obviously make things so much easier if we can get just work with the NTB registered establishments.
Because you've got to prove there anyway.
Exactly.
You've got your health regulations in place. And. So how many members does Tasa now have?
At this stage, we have 147 members,
quite a lot.
Of which 113 are full members. So those would be tour operators and tour facilitators. And then we have two other categories, which are affiliate and associate members, which comprise, on the one hand, people that work with the tourism sector, like banks and suppliers and those kind of people, and then also members that are involved in the marketing of the destination of Namibia, and they obviously also have an interest to know what is happening in the tour operating field.
And now, obviously, on Thursday afternoon, the President has now announced that the lockdown is over. How soon do you think will the response be on your side? Do you think there will be immediate response, or is it still going to last a bit before?
I think, look, there's definitely interest out there to come and travel. There's a hunger to sort of try and get back to normality of some sort, and Namibia is obviously an ideal country for social distancing because of the vast distances. We don't have mass tourism. Lodges are usually relatively small. So it really is ideal for that. We don't have a very high density of people, no matter really where you go. The problem at this stage is a little bit the uncertainty about the second COVID test that needs to be done in Namibia on day 5. The logistics around it is problematic because the path care centers alone are definitely not going to help areas that are in more remote, which is actually where the tourists really want to be going. So we are really working on government to get clarity there, how that is supposed to be working. And ideally, it would obviously be good if we could follow South Africa's example and just have tourists come with a negative test, because then I think they have already, I mean, one can get COVID anyway. There is no surety on that. But I do think that is already a really good starting point, and it would just make it so much easier to open up.
Technically speaking, with the lockdown being over, state of emergency over, technically those regulations don't apply anymore. If you really think about it strictly. But then having said that, we clearly heard that the Minister of Health still wants to have control, which I understand. I mean, we have to, we're not out of the woods yet, so so technically it should be much easier for them to maybe just adjust and say, listen guys, if it's not day 5, but if you pass through here, this is your itinerary, why don't you do it on day 6 and quickly stop there and there? Surely it's just a matter of managing it.
It would obviously be good if flexibility is included by all means. We are basically holding our breath to hear what Ministry of Health and Social Security is going to put forward as the new and updated regulations. We hope to get this information today, because I think everybody is sort of in a limbo now, because nobody really knows what's going to happen and what the new regulations will be. Obviously, Ministry of Health main responsibility is to be very prudent and safe.
Which makes sense, yeah.
You know, so, but obviously on the other hand, the President has also made it clear that the economy now also needs to get going, and that hungry people are also not, don't have a very safe and healthy future. So we are hoping to hear the best, but until such time we are holding on to what we've been given for now, and are working with that.
So as a tourist, if you come here, what is the stuff that you really have to have in the back of your mind? What is the stuff you will be likely to encounter?
So first of all, you need to, 14 days prior to traveling, you need to give your itinerary and your details to an embassy or a high commission or some diplomatic representation in your country.
Okay.
You need to have your passport, and you need to have basically your itinerary, where you stay now, where you're going to stay in Namibia. And then once that has been submitted on that side, then once you get here, you need to have your negative test. And then
do you actually submit it before you climb on the plane?
No. Basically, what you need to submit, well, you need to give it to the airline when you check in. But when you give your travel plans, you basically need to advise either what your quarantine plans are, where you would be booked in, or where your first establishment is, where you're booked in. But once you get here, you would basically need to submit your COVID test. You need to submit your health questionnaire, which is available from the website of the Namibia Tourism Board.
Okay.
And you need a copy of your full itinerary. That needs to be handed in on arrival. And then obviously you would need your normal health insurance. That just is standard. And then basically you can then proceed to your first destination point. You can, if you're going to stay less than 5 days, you can continue traveling. At this point in time, you would then need to figure out where you can do the test on day 5.
Okay.
So there's still a little bit of questions there. Once you have done the test and it comes back as negative, so on day 7 you ideally need to be contactable for your results. If it's negative, then you can proceed without any further limitation. If it's positive, you would need to go to one of the quarantine facilities that have been identified by the government at your own cost, and then you would need to be there for 10 days. The test is also at your own cost, and at this stage it's around 1,500 Namibian dollars.
Which calculated in euros really not that much if you take it. I think it's more if you come from South Africa and the neighboring countries, then it's still a lot of money that you just need to sort of plan with.
Exactly.
It provides some clarity. Just some final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we are all looking forward to really getting our tourists back, to getting some energy and life back into the tourism sector. So the sooner we can start, the better. We are all hoping that there's going to be travel, even though we are going to slowly but surely be moving into low season, or our normal low season. We really hope that our tourists are going to change that and support us in this time. And all we really want to do is just get going.
Yeah, I think the Namibia Tourism Expo is probably ideal to just try and give it some final shove in November. Hopefully get some visitors from out of the SADC area. Because I mean, obviously coming from Europe and everywhere else, that's going to take a bit of time. Anyway, thank you for visiting us, and thank you for the insights.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right, and that is the news from Tasa. Tasa obviously very important as one of the joints between the tourist sector and the government. They do a lot of intermediary work for these associations and all the members. So very important, and I've asked Nathalie to come in every once in a while and tell us more about it, simply because it will likely affect many of you over the coming months when we look at tourism and how we go forward. Yeah, brings us to the end of this show. Finally, let's give you a photo of the week again. This one was by Dieter Jacobs, and I just find it's a very nice photo. This is of a Damra dik-dik. Whoever of you knows them, they become no more than, I think, 50 to 60 centimeters high. And female and male are in the habit of meeting and staying with it. You know, they've got a bond for life, which is quite nice to see in nature. Anyway, that's the Damra dik-dik. Hope you enjoyed the photo. Thank you for watching. And hopefully I'll see you next week. Thank you and bye.